We're not just stripping paint today, we're solving a mystery because no one knows what bike this is. So LeMond got bought out by Trek in the late 90s, early 2000s, somewhere between there. And this bike frame is between the late 90s and early 2000s. So during that transitional period, this is either a steel frame, an aluminum frame, or it has the spine design where it is half aluminum, half carbon. And we don't know. I have asked so many people. I even called Trek. I gave them the serial number of this frame. And they're like, oh, yeah, it's late 90s. So it's all steel. And then I would go online from people who actually know the frame a little bit better, and they're like, we can't know unless you give us the frame and they can look at it a little bit more. But they're like, because of the welds right here, they're saying this is most likely the all aluminum frame. But there's a chance it is the spine design where this is carbon, depending on whatever. They were also saying that it's most likely also aluminum because of the fact that the actual lettering right here for the LeMond is all caps. There was a version of this where it was more in the 2004, 2005 years, where these were more of a cursive. So that is probably the big telltale sign, but we're just going to figure it out and just confirm it the hard way. And once I know if this is a 2001, 2002 frame where it's all aluminum, or it's going to be a 2004, 2005 where it is a spine design where it's half aluminum, half carbon. So let's figure this out. Now we're going to be relatively gentle with this. All we're going to do is we're going to find a soft spot on here. I'm already going to strip this. So this is the scary part because now I'm just going to be stripping stuff. We're going to test roughly a few locations. I already know that this part is aluminum. Whether it is a spine design or not, this will be aluminum. So just a confirmation. And then also we're going to test somewhere in here. This will tell me if this tube or spine part is also aluminum or if it's carbon. And if I tap it, it sounds aluminum. Tap here, it sounds a little hollow. So I'm almost thinking this might be carbon. It's hard to tell from here as well, but just looking down here, it looks like this part might be aluminum. Maybe this is something else. So we're just going to start testing. We're just going to figure this out together. There's already some scuff marks here on the clear coat, so might as well just start here. Now, I'm not going to rub it back and forth. I'm just going to create a small circle. Oh, the scratching. So this white, this is clear coat. I should actually be wearing a mask because if we do get down to some carbon or anything underneath it, it's super toxic. I mean, this isn't any better for your lungs, but like I said, I'm just going small for right now. Okay, it looks black so far, but like I said, this is just clear coat. Still looks black. Let me give it a little bit more. Oh, what do we see here? All right, we see silver. This is aluminum. So it's most likely not the spine design. Kind of got my hopes up, but it's still super light, so I really don't care that much. If anything, it makes my life easier because then I can just paint strip this all the way through, and I don't have to worry about accidentally destroying the carbon and the epoxy that holds it together. But, next part of the test, right here. There is no going back now. All right. We got silver, so that's aluminum. Next part, like I said, right over here, which is that part of the rear fork stay. If you're wondering, this is 220 grit, so not super coarse, but enough that I can pull some paint off. All right, we got some silver, so it confirms it. We have an all aluminum frame. It is not the spine design, which is unfortunate, but also makes my life easier. So now that I know that this is all aluminum, I'm just going to paint strip the whole thing. I'm going to look for new stickers, decals, vinyl, whatever you want to call it. And then I do want to introduce a high polish for this. So I'm going to be polishing the aluminum. So it'll be half polished, half some other color. I might go black. I'm thinking white. I might go a more extravagant color, maybe like a blue of some sort. I don't like red. I've said that before. Some people really like red. It's just not my thing. I'm going to keep it a much cleaner look. I'll try and go all silver if I can, and then we'll just kind of go from there. Now, Here is the fork to give you a look of what it should look like, right? Like I said, I'm also going to strip this. I cannot use paint thinner on this or paint stripper because if this is carbon, like I'm told it is, I need to do this one by hand, which is fine. I got no problem. I was planning on doing the whole frame by hand. So it saves me time anyways. Now I just have to do a fork. This already had a paint chipper here, so I'm just going to sand this down. I want to see if I can get down to some type of carbon and just make sure it actually is carbon. If it's not, I'll probably just switch this thing out. It is what it is. That is, what is that? It looks like carbon. It is carbon. All right, so confirmed one thing. So that's a good step. So it has that ding sound. That doesn't sound like metal compared to, right? That sounds like metal. It has that hollow sound. So that's carbon. So you can see I scraped down past the paint and past the clear coat. It is black on there. I primarily want to get to this point. I don't want to go past this because I don't want to damage the fibers underneath. I'm going to get to about this level all the way through and then paint it, which also means these decals are going to be a little tricky. I need to get past the clear coat that went over the decal and then pull it off and then kind of go over it. And then I will figure out what color to do with this. So next is go to the store and go get paint thinner or paint stripper. I guess I should figure out what kind of paint stripper to use. Let's figure it out, guys. All right, so let's head to the store and pick a few things up. But I have to drop off a few packages first, and they close at 6 at the UPS store. So gotta hit there first, and then the FedEx store. And then go find paint stripper. Also, this little guy will be joining us in our little adventure. Say, hey, Linus, what's up, buddy? I'm not a cat person. I'm not. But I like this dude. He's an exception. All right, so I'm outside because I'm gonna paint strip this guy, and I'll show it to you guys here in a second. But first is we have this little protective layer that goes on the bottom, usually so that it protects the paint from if the chain ever comes off. It doesn't ruin or scratch it. The paint is just a protective film. But I got to remove this. So first of all, it's old already. So I'm just going to take a small razor and trying to get it off as cleanly as possible so that when I do apply the paint stripper, it can actually peel off the paint and not just get stuck on this plastic. So let's get her done. Probably just fast forward through this. And yes, I'm crouched down like this because it is surprisingly comfortable. Hashtag Asian squat. It cracked. Yeah, once it starts cracking like this, it doesn't come off very easily. So back to the razor blade. So might be a little hard to hear me just because I have the respirator on. Safety first. This stuff is pretty strong. It's just tied up to a tree and a ladder. Nothing crazy. It's going through the bottom bracket area because there's no paint inside of there, so it works out. The only places I won't be spraying this and be doing manually is right here on the tube because I wasn't able to take off and I didn't really want to take off the headset. So here I will just do it manually by hand. The rest of it I can pretty much just use this to remove. So it's for using Rust-Oleum aircraft remover to remove paint. So AutoZone, Home Depot, Lowe's, doesn't matter. Is it anything that isn't taken off by the paint stripper? I'll just be using sandpaper, so it is what it is. Just easy way for us to start. I should probably remove this now I realize
Ooh, you can hear it bubbling. That's crazy. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's already starting to strip the paint off. And we've only been here for, what, a couple minutes? Check it out. That is nuts. Especially here. What? Look at that. Alright, that's a tricky spot right there. Whoa, look at through its thing. Alright, I think that's all she needs. Since we're going for that silver and white look, I might as well just get rid of that black. So, I actually end up needing to flip around, so. And then all the extra two. All right, so we got the fork. While we're letting the chemicals do its work to strip the paint, let's work on this guy. Now, I can't use paint stripper on this like you remember because it's going to destroy the epoxy underneath this carbon. And we did verify it's carbon already. So I've got two types of sandpaper. I got 220 grit to get most of the clear coat and get down to those stickers, and then use something a little bit smoother, which is the 1000 grit. I'll use this slightly wet as well, just to kind of smooth it out. Like I said, we just need scuffs because we are going to paint over this anyways. So I did rip off a small piece, a little bit easier for me to work with because I'm going to get right in between here and that little lip, because that little silver part just makes it a little bit easier for me to work with. And primarily, we don't need to go as far as I did already, but I'm just gonna, I want to get down to that carbon just below the paint, barely, just to get her there. I feel like it'll get a much cleaner finish off of it. So you don't need to see me do this. I'll show you and clip forward and kind of show you where we're at. Maybe I'll clip forward to the spot where I can get under the clear coat to the stickers, and I'll probably use a razor blade or something to pull them off. All right, you see all that white right there? That is clear coat. So let me just wipe some of that off. Cool. Now, so there's a couple spots that I can use for like a lip. Right here seems to be the easiest. So I'm gonna see if I can just get slightly underneath it. All right, well, I'll keep working on it. Well, there you go. Let's see if I can get a big chunk of this guy. Whoa. All right, I'll keep working on it with the razor blade until I get a little bit. Let's see if I can get all the way across one, and I should be able to just peel her back. Okay, so did the paint stripping work? Yes. And no. So around the welds, was actually able to take it off really easily, very cleanly. Surprisingly, I didn't plan on having anything touch the headset, but it didn't seem to affect it in any way, mostly because it's, I'm assuming because it's metal and there's no paint for it to rip apart. So you can see welds peeled off, welds peeled off, welds. Everywhere there was a weld, it was able to take off pretty cleanly, which is where I will struggle with if I were to try to do sandpaper anyways. And everywhere that there was a sticker, it just would not take it off. Like, I mean, it was able to strip the sticker off, but you can still see there's glue on there, and it was not able to take it off. Anywhere around that was flat or relatively smooth with no welds, it just had the hardest time. So it worked, and it didn't work. So I'm still gonna need to sand it by hand, but it got the tricky spots for me, which, like I said, are the welds and around the headset. So I guess it's a win, but also not really. Would I do it again? 50-50, I guess. I guess we'll find out in the next project. But anyways, I will have to sand this by hand. Fun times. So I didn't notice this until now because, well, I'm in the car and I'm touching stuff with my hand, but I didn't get it anywhere except on my thumb. And And as you can see, it is pretty irritated. It is incredibly hard right here, and it's kind of eating away at the skin. So got it nowhere else, and I just didn't clean my thumb off well enough, and you can kind of see that this is why I should have worn gloves. But you know, hindsight's 2020. I will know better for next time, because that looks pretty gross. So here's where I'm at. Just doing it by hand now. So let's do it. All right, I got this thing down to, except for here, these are gonna get painted and they're kind of like in these weird little divots, so hard to kind of get off. The rest of it's done to 2000 grit, but it's still kind of left off like this. So we're using this little polish right here, and just put a little bit on here and we just start polishing. It actually turned out pretty good on this side, so now I just gotta finish up the rest. So we'll just start going through that. You guys don't have to watch the whole process, but just don't put a ton. It just needs a little bit, and then when you buff it out, you know, she'll come out pretty shiny like this. Still not perfect. There's some spots that I kind of have to work through, but I'll work through it. Okay, here she is. So, ta-da! It was actually a bit more of a struggle. Just getting this thing sanded down was way harder than I initially anticipated. I really wanted the paint stripper to do more of the work, and it just didn't. So it took a lot more man hours to get it fixed up. Also, I had to kind of figure out how to get this thing to just look shiny, kind of closer to this. It's still not perfect. You can see blemishes, and a lot of that's just the way I had prepped it beforehand. It's not gonna be any better unless I resand everything and then go through another polish. This is, I think, the closest I can get with the polish that I have used. This is still red. This is just lightly sanded because this will be painted, so I'm not worried about that too much. But you can kind of see the vision, right, of all the silver, so you can kind of see more of that metal. This will be painted white. The spots back here are kind of messed up. I couldn't get into these little holes, and these will be black right now, but like I said, this whole bottom side will be painted white. I'm trying to figure out the color scheme of how all this is going to be put together. So still playing around with a couple ideas of how I'm going to design it. Got to get the Cricut Maker out and get the labels set up. I don't know how I'm going to do the LeMond. I like the Chambery, so I think I'm going to put that maybe somewhere here or on this side. I don't know. I got to figure that out. But I've already put a little bit more money on this than I would have originally wanted, because I'll show you guys how I put this together, where if this would be a budget build, I can get it out for honestly a few $100 and then got a bigger profit out of it. But I got a little ahead of myself, and I wanted to test out some components that I've never used before, which it's still a bit more on the budget build side, but I could have saved a lot of money on a few things. For example, the crank set, I could have reused the crank set that I was able to salvage from another bike, which would have saved me, well, I'll reveal how much it would have saved me in the next video, but it would have matched the aesthetic. I would have just polished it some more, and then it would have kind of matched all of this. And would I have painted it? I don't know, maybe. But I think the crank set I got is a 1x, so I kind of like the way that looks. It's just that the chain ring throws me for a loop, and you'll see why when I put up on the next video. But yeah, here's what we got so far. Next one is gonna be paint, and then we'll kind of go over the componentry. Let me know what you guys think.